Wendy, we have a hard out at 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read really fast. Usually I write a news story, and I'm like working all night the night before, and I was trying to do that, and I was like, oh my God, everything I'm writing is like a suicide note. You know, it's like you open Facebook and you're... So sometimes you write a story and you break it at strong words, and then you take it away and you do it for a couple of other folks, and it gets a little better. And that's the great thing about stories. They're never perfect. The more you tell them, the better they get. Hope this doesn't suck. Linda Gerlich was a rock star. Her mom was a genius, and my dad was always on the lookout for new ways to entertain his family as long as they were free. On Sundays, we'd venture to the airport and watch the planes take off, back when you could do that. Every 4th of July, we'd park alongside the cornfield to gaze at the fireworks in the nearby town. And every Memorial Day, we'd dutifully drive to nearby Pemberville to watch the parade. This was pure small-town Americana. Beauty queens, tractors, beauty queens on tractors. And here it comes, the star attraction. Now, champion football teams, they came and went in this Ohio farm community, but the mighty marching Eastwood Eagles were a consistent source of community pride. Lawrence J. McCormick, Mr. Mac, as he was affectionately known, had pulled a Harold Hill of sorts, transforming farm kids into Class A award-winning musicians. Marching with pride and precision, brasses blaring, percussion pounding, and at the heart of the drum section was this Linda Gerlich, rocking the Tim Toms. Linda was stout and strong, dark and exotic, the genetic byproduct of fine German engineering and Mexican-American fortitude. Back in 1970s Pemberville, we didn't know what butch was. It was just a haircut back then. Her strength, her precision and discipline, the rhythms and cadence and sheer audacity of a girl to bang those drums loud and proud, and the entire marching band, 120 strong, following and marching to her beat. I was 6 years old. That's what I want to do. I have to be in that parade. At the mall, I exchange weeks of allowance money for my first pair of drumsticks at Grinnell's, and the sonic assault on my family begins. Normally, I would go back and play the drums and show you, but if there's one rule that drummers have, we don't share our drums. Right? Trust me. I build a makeshift drum set with Mom's Tupperware and pie tins, and soon had mastered all the drum parts on my sister's record albums, including the drum solo from In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. So when Mrs. Gerlich, Linda's mom, our local Avon lady, came to call, she recognized opportunity. Mrs. Gerlich was fancy. She had to be. She was the only Mexican in the entire town who didn't work in the fields. How she wound up here, I have no idea, but she was amazing. Shiny red lipstick, talked fast, and always smelled like rose petals. And she was smart. She peddled gossip along with her Avon wares. She knew her audience. And Mrs. Gerlich realized that she could bring her daughter Linda on calls to give me drum lessons, thereby making my mom a captive audience and forced to buy Avon while I learned to play. So the aftershaves and the lipsticks and the lotions and the blush begin to pile up as I get better. I was relentless. My poor parents. I was just tapping on everything. I'd tap on the dashboard in the car. I'd tap on the dinner table. And my mom would finally just like grab my hands. She'd be like, just don't touch anything. Don't move your fingers. Boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom. I wanted a drum set more than anything. And then that one magic Christmas morning, I came downstairs and under the tree was waiting a guitar. Ostensibly, the guitar was to give me a musical foundation and teach me to read music. But the truth was, guitars were just a lot cheaper than drums, and my parents were sure this was just a phase. 3 years of guitar lessons later, I demanded my birthright. And my parents acquiesced with a shiny red Gretsch drum set in the realization they would never have a moment's peace for the rest of their lives. But there was a price. At the age of 12, said parents, load me and that shiny red drum set into a bus along with 30 teenagers, all older than me, 2 uptight Pentecostal ministers. We were ambassadors of the Lord, heading out on tour to spread the word of Jesus Christ through our ministry of music. We would go out for weeks at a time, playing churches in different towns and staying with host families. No one thought twice about trusting their children to complete strangers hundreds of miles away. Once, in Athens, Ohio, I was hosted by this hippie-looking guy who claimed he had been an early member of Joe Walsh's band, the James Gang. We start rapping about music, and then he lit up a joint and offered me a hit. No thanks, I'm 12. So the whole drumming for Jesus thing is a crazy story in and of itself, but I got that out of the way. I fulfilled my rock and roll fantasy of life on the road, and it was time to get serious about my music. It was time for 7th grade. Time to join the band. Mr. Mack, the wiry, soft-spoken man, both feared and revered, could cut you to shreds with a single glance. He caught me holding my drumsticks wrong once. Who do you think you are, Ringo? But that's what it took, Greatness sometimes requires being tough on those you love. He was outnumbered 120-1, and the only weapons he had were passion, a whistle, and a baton. And Miss Conway, always there with a boutonniere for the big concert. So one afternoon, I pop into the music room during study hall to find Mr. Mack in a contemplative mood on the piano. Poor man probably just wanted a minute's peace, but in I barged. What's that you're playing? Chopin, he smiles. I roll my eyes. Someday, you'll understand. We forget, for all the pomp and pageantry of parades, that marching bands were originally created for the military, right? They took artists and they made them into soldiers. But Mr. Mack, he took farmers and made us into artists under the guise of soldiers. So this one time at band camp, Mr. Mack wore a bathing suit that was a lot tinier than everybody else's. And that was weird. It was also the first time I saw my best friend Gary naked. And that was weird. And cool. No, weird. Weird. Kinda cool. A few weeks later, Gary and I got very cool. Very cool and very terrified because we were convinced we were the only gay people in the world, us and Stephen Carrington of Dynasty. To be gay in Pemberville, we don't tell a soul. So Mr. Mack retires the year he graduates. He knew it wasn't going to get any better than that. A year later, during our freshman year at college, Gary and I muster the courage to venture into our first gay bar in nearby Toledo, Ohio. Mr. Mack? Oh my God, Mr. Mack is gay. Well, that explains all those Donna Summer medleys. But what about poor Miss Conway? She knows, he smiles. So there we are, having drinks with the man we both loved and feared for all these years, and he's getting drunk. Let me guess. You realized you were gay somewhere between your junior and senior year. Yes. How did you know? Oh, you started dressing better. And out come the stories, and we learned that marching bands are filled with gay people. Yes, Linda Gerlich, but also Mike Weiss and Perry Walston and so many others. Mr. Mack tells us he's going back to school, so we invite him to our college parties, and he shows up. We never share the secret with our old band friends, but somewhere there are photos of all of us drunk and laughing with our arms around each other and beers in hand. And a few short years later, Mr. Mack is gone. I drink water when I'm about to cry. The cause of death listed in the obituary. I don't believe it, because it's the late 80s. But again, I keep this to myself. I never stopped playing the drums, right? You just don't. I play in pit orchestras and bands, and once I got to play Mustang Sally on stage with Sir Mac Rice, the man who wrote Mustang Sally. Ride, Sally, ride. But I play less and less as the years go by. Then a year ago, about this time, I'm at the Gay Pride Parade in Palm Springs with Gary and Gary's partner, Terry. And there we are, Larry and Gary and Terry. And don't you just want to puke? And up marches the Desert Winds Freedom Band. Mostly folks in their 50s and 60s and the 70s, and they are puffing. But they are fantastic, right? And this big old queen is leading the band, and he throws that baton way up in the air, and the whole crowd cheers when he catches it. Then he reaches for an inhaler. And the drummers, they are magnificent and butch. Their hands move as one as they tap out the cadence that leads into the Lady Gaga anthem, Born This Way. 50 years later, I say it again. That's what I want to do. I want to be in that parade. So I joined the band. And I love it. Our first Pops concert, it's just like Pemberville all over again. The entire community turns out. The gay veterans stand and salute during the patriotic anthems. And afterwards, there are dilly bars from Dairy Queen because, of course, the local Dairy Queen is owned by two queens. My friend John says to me, well, you were certainly having fun up there, but weren't you just being a bit too theatrical, holding those cymbals up so high? That's the way cymbals are supposed to be played, John. You hold them up so they resonate, and also because I like the attention. Last November, was my first parade in a very long time. We were artists and soldiers marching because we've earned the right to. We've come a long way from Pembervilles all across America. Maybe our formations weren't as tight, maybe our notes weren't as crisp and pitch perfect, but one thing was certain. I was smiling, and I was really loud. Thank you. Let's get that sexy band back up here. Okay. You gonna do my favorite?
Wendy said yes.
Oh, good. All right. So here's the deal. As soon as we're done, tumultuous applause, and then everybody gets the hell out because there's somebody else coming in. All right? But please find us, strongwordslive.com. We're on the Facebook. We tweet. We do all those things you haven't been doing because your phones were off, right? Okay, great. It's been an amazing afternoon. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. Woo! Please welcome back the house band, David, Haerle, and Edendale.
I do want to be your house band. That's actually right. We're going to close with a song that's explicitly about LA in keeping with the library's theme here. And my dad's love of LA rubbed off on me. And he came out here in 1968. And my dad was an alcoholic who recovered the year before, and he was making a new start in life, a new beginning, and he chose LA and brought our family out the next year. And he'd take us as kids and see the sights and the sounds of this city all the time. And we're going to take you a few places today with this song. It's called I Have a Crush on LA. Another perfect LA winter, another day so pretty. There's an awful lot of beauty and a whole lot of gritty. Some seen and sometimes hidden in this here city. Hey, boys! Come saddle up in your jeans and leather and wrap your arms around me now. We're gonna ride together. Today we'll see the mountains, the desert and the sea. So hold on tight, ready, set, go on a 1, 2, 3. Ready, set, go on a 1, 2, 3. I got a few places I want you to see. Gonna do my best, gonna be your guide. Through Los Angeles, we're gonna ride. Edendale, Palmdale, Signal Hill, Echo Park, Highland Park, Griffith Park, Bunker Hill, Sun Valley, Simi Valley, Green Valley, Westlake, Vernon, Herman, Sherman, Oaks, and Silver Lake, Covina. West Covina, Gardena, Temple City, Love, Winnie, Altadena, Pasadena, Lakewood, Linwood, Brentwood, Inglewood, Artesia, Cerritos, Hawaiian Gardens, Hollywood, Topanga, Latuna, Alhambra, Silmar, Diamond Bar, Azusa, Tarzana, Chinatown, Koreatown, Historic Filipino Town, Eagle Rock, Little Rock, they all rock. Travel Town down in San Dimas, La Mirada, Hawthorne, Wandslow, Steelers, and Long Kenyatta, North Hills, Southgate, Westwood, East LA, Arleta, Lomita, Santa Monica Bay, Whittier, Bellflower, Bell Gardens, and Bell, San Marino, San Pedro, and San Gabriel. Here I grew up, I think I'm gonna stay. I've got a crush on LA. I think of my dad. He bought a bus fare to a new life, a story not rare. City vast, wonders abound. What you're looking for, I bet can be found. And you know, we ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you. I want to introduce my band. We were going to do that on the song before, but on my left, on bass guitar and vocals, Carson Cohen. Carson! And to my right, on guitar and vocals, Mr. Ken Belcher. On keyboards and in the studio with me all the time, Jose Luis Salazar. And on drums, Mr. Reed Pryor. Thank you, everyone.
I have one quick announcement I forgot, and I'll never hear the end of it. Our next show is March 25th, and it marks the return of one Jimmy Doyle. Jimmy Doyle asked to program the show. It's going to be an all-Irish show, and it's going to be insane. So that's all I'm saying. We'll see you March 25th. Thank you.